Hello YouTube, and welcome to the review of my 2022 DR650. This is my daily, and roughly about a week ago I wanted to show off an older bike that I had, which was a 1998 ZG1200 Voyager. But anyway, just to start it off, 644 cc's. They claim that this tank right here somehow is 3.4 gallons. I'm not sure how they got that. You do see some accessories, so it doesn't look like a stock DR. It's got a Parabellum tall windscreen on it. And you also in the back, this is a GV 43 liter case. I want to say mono lock. It's a mono lock case, and it's actually made more for like scooters. But 43 horsepower, 47 torque roughly. And anybody's looking at this video, I'm assuming there's gonna be some people popping in here and doing the same thing I did. So it's one of the big three thumpers: the XR650 from Honda, the DR from Suzuki, the one we're reviewing, and then the KLR 650. And if anybody's trying to figure out, well, which one, if you ride on the road more, KLR 650. If you go on trails on the weekend, but you commute with it to work, the DR650. And if you primarily stay off-road, the XR650. So why did I choose it over those, though? There's a few other factors. So if you look here, I like this oil cooler, so it won't be as hot as an XR650. And also, the XR650 is carrying its oil in its frame, which, I don't know, man. Something was just kind of weird to me about that. And I didn't like that it always came in red. But those were just a couple of things. And just riding in a hotter climate. We're in South Mississippi, so it's always hot here. Like, I think right now it's February. It's supposed to be a colder day, but in a week it'll be like 80. Anyway, so the XR was a no-no. It was a little bit too much for me for as much road use as I have. And the KLR, I had just come from a VFR 1200X like not even a year ago, and I didn't want to get something 450 pounds. It still was too heavy, so I wanted to stay in that 350-ish range. The XR is 340, the DR is 366, I believe, but it feels incredibly light when you try to pick it up. I have done some customization here on the front. That's not the stock headlight, that's JNS, and I would highly recommend that. And I do have another one coming here, which is going to be, a lot of people like doing this tidy tail or tail tidy or whatever it's called, but I'm gonna be honest with you, that shit's not that important to me. But what is important is putting this LED bulb in here, and it's only 24 bucks on Pro Cycle. Still got the stock tires. I have put a Chair Beast skid plate underneath. Didn't want to put metal because I don't want to make it heavier. I think this is a lot lighter than the metal one. Warp 9 case covers. There is another thing I still want to do though, which is the chain guard right here. I do want to get this replaced with one that's going to be easier to spray out and clean out. And I think, yeah, it sounded like plastic. Ooh, I hope that's not, but I think it is. But anyway, I got the case covers on both sides. Haven't done my valve check yet. I'm a couple 100 miles past due for it. But the reason that you got to do the valve check is because these motors, especially newer like this, they've got all that unexpanded metal because the motors haven't been running. So the valve metal, or where you got to adjust it right there, those gaps will definitely swell. So you're going to lose clearance in the first 800 miles. So always a good idea to check it. I know a lot of people say not to, but it's my money and I don't want to lose it. So anyway, as far as passengers go, you got some space here. This is just enough for my kids to sit on. I wouldn't put me and my wife on this bike. She's almost 6 foot. Power wise, it kind of rips through traffic, man. You always stay in the low end. I never really have to get to the top end commuting or anything like that, but I mean, it starts petering out. If you're trying to haul ass with it, it'll start petering out around 80. And I'd say maybe with me on it, you might get to 95, maybe. But I would hate to think what I would do on a KLX or something smaller like any of the EFI 300s. But you do have a 17 on the back. The big debate of what tires I want to get. I'm going with the Moto RAL Z. I think I said that right. It's a Tractionator tire, but I'm just going to do back and front. I was watching a channel, this Australian guy, really knows his shit, was talking about go with the RAL Z. And you can probably guess, and I'm sure if you're looking at this review, you've already seen this. The suspension, I definitely tank it, front and rear. So I'm gonna go with a stiffer spring up front, rated for my weight. And then in the back, ProCycle has a revalve kit they're gonna send to your house, and you can do it yourself. They say the instructions, based off of the amount of shit I've had to do now to a bike, it actually doesn't sound too crazy of a undertaking. But I'm gonna do the revalve in the back with an 8.6 spring, and then I'm gonna do the heavier springs in the front. Some people said you can have a pogo effect from that. If I do, I'll post about it. Now my GV box, if you do want to get a cleaner look at the bike, I can snap this off for you real quick. And this is that's pretty cool about GV actually. Outside of yeah, it comes off like a damn briefcase. You can get a better shot of the bike here. But anyway, it's a nice clean looking bike. Plastics are cheap as shit, so anything you tear up on it, you're not gonna have to be too worried about, as long as it's like a body thing. I probably will go with the Acerbis 5.6. My concern is that when I turn in, how much clearance will I have? See, there we go. When I go to full turn like that, I do worry about the clearance on that windscreen right here, which I may have to swap out for just like a little rally one that bolts to the front right here. But anyway, I've also got another thing that I changed, was this is just being taller. And a lot of people will tell you this is dangerous because you can hit your feet out on the trail. But if I'm anywhere that I'm going to hit my feet, I'm driving the bike beyond its potential. So I'm not too worried about it. But this does lower it. I want to say it goes down 1.5 and back 1 Works wire foot pegs. And I'd highly recommend these to any of the long-legged individuals. And then for the seat, stock seat does suck. You can get used to it. But I did the seat concepts. A lot of people do like carbon fiber side, but it looks so cool to me. They do have the grip top, which I think everyone uses, but there's a couple drawbacks to the grip top I didn't like. They absorb water, so your seat feels soaking ass wet, and they just don't look as cool, man. I thought this made the bike look way more badass when it was on. But if you're debating on a bike, like, oh, should I buy this DR650? Like, I'm looking at this bike or that bike. If you're looking at those smaller ones like the KLX 300, the CRF 300, if you're going off-road a decent amount and you don't want to drop big bore money, and you're not a large person, like I would say if you're under 200 pounds, like you'd be fine on those bikes, and you'll save a little money if you go with the Cowie because you won't have to do anything to your suspension. Same with the Honda. If you do want to spend big bore money, you're going to spend less getting the Honda off-road ready. But the DR is just, it's the perfect in between. I can make this more off-road oriented, or I can make it more road oriented, but it's a lot harder for me to make my KLR, or a KLR rather, be more off-road oriented, or equally as off-road oriented. And it's also harder for me, in my opinion, to make an XR more road oriented enough to match the DR. But like I said, man, that's just a difference of opinion with people. It's kind of up to you whether or not you want to do that, but everything that needs done on this bike, the greatest thing about it, not only does it hang with a lot of the bikes, like cars and traffic and stuff like that, and rips around easy, it's going to be a lot better than a smaller displacement dual sport, but it's also easy as shit to work on. So like the hardest thing, I think, in my opinion, maintenance wise, may be a valve check, just because you got to pull the tank and the seat and the side covers. But once you're done with that, there's not really any crazy maintenance. I mean, you know, you got a single disc in the back and a single disc in the front. So anything like that's going to be easy. ProCycle, I would say the longest page on ProCycle is probably for this bike. I'll go ahead and check it too if you guys want to hear what it sounds like. Let me grab my key out of my bag. So when you start it, the choke is certainly important because I need it almost every time I start this bike. But just to give you a little taste of what it sounds like, I'm gonna grab my clutch real fast. Now it is revved up a little higher with the clutch, so you are gonna hear that, but it's not as quiet as I want it to be, even with the clutch off. The choke off. But there is a DG option that they have, and I'd highly recommend it. They say it drops at about maybe another 4 to 6 decibels, I think. So if you're somebody that likes to creep through the woods and you want to see some shit, go for it. But it also has a thing that you can take out if you want to be a little bit louder. As far as how user-friendly it is, I don't know yet. I've heard great shit about it. So if you want to be louder, if you're afraid you're going to get shot by a hunter, if you want to be quieter because you want to see some deer, some wildlife, you got those options. But I don't know what to say, man. This is a unicorn of bikes, really. Depending on your use case, if you're looking for that dual sport that does every single thing, this is going to be it. It's going to pull harder than the 300s. It's going to be able to go off-road. It's going to be able to keep with an XR650. It's not going to be able to outperform it. It's going to be able to hang with a KLR on the road. There's not really a lot of drawbacks. And the DRZ400, if you know that you want that Suzuki look, but you want to go off-road, you might actually save a little bit because you won't have to do as many upgrades for off-road getting the 400. But this thing's a monster, dude. And sand and shit like that, you'll actually have the power to pull through the sand. But anyway, I'm gonna get her shut down. If you got any questions or comments that something I missed on this bike that I can cover, I'm also gonna do a separate video covering the parts. But anyway, just let me know in the comments, and I hope you got something from this. I hope it helps you if you're looking for a bike, make a decision. And until the next video, take care. All right, so there's a couple things though in the video I didn't say that I wanted to say, and this is gonna be essentially like an honorable mention section. The tires that are stock are absolute dog shit, and don't waste them because you paid for them. So wear them out. But on mud, wet roads, any of that, it's like being on a damn dirt track. You know, in a dirt track car drifting, and that ass end will slide out from underneath you so quick. So be careful on them. They call them the death wings. Every other bike that I've seen so far, like I know the KLR does, the 605s, Dunlop 605s. That's not a bad tire, and I think the KLX has those too, and a few other newer dual sports. Also, a lot of riders, especially younger riders that are going to dual sports, sometimes they worry more about carb versus EFI. Don't rule out bikes just because they're carbed. You can, worst case scenario, on a trail or something like that, if you're going on a big trip, just buy a cheap Chinese carburetor that you can throw on. It's like $40, and then when you get somewhere where you can sit at a workbench, you can get a rebuild kit, and it's actually kind of fun to do. If you did Legos growing up, which I didn't do Legos growing up, but anyway, if you have somewhat of an ability to follow instructions, you'll be fine. It's not really hard. It's kind of, you know, pulling one thing out and putting a new thing in. But don't let a carb take you away from a good all-rounder motorcycle. And then there's people like, okay, so you know, you're spending all this money on a DR650. Why don't you just buy a Tenere 700? Well, if you buy an older one, an older DR650, like I was saying, and you spend Farkle money on it, or if it's already been Farkled, but let's say there's some crazy shit out there. So say you buy an older one, there's a wide ratio kit that comes from Nova Racing, an A and a B kit, and the kit brings you to a lower first and a taller fit, and it's like $1,600, which sounds crazy, but there's people out there buying Cogent Mojave suspensions and they're paying almost $2,000 after taxes. So anyway, that's something to consider, especially when you go and buy a Tenere and you're gonna do shit, you're gonna Farkle it, because every new bike, it doesn't matter what bike it is never right from the factory. Everybody's gonna put shit on it anyway. But I don't know, man, you could really turn this thing into a unicorn. I left those things out of the video, and like I said, it's an honorable mentions thing. I wanted to cover a few of them. I'm not trying to make the perfect review. All I'm literally trying to do is just give my experience, what I've had with the bike so far. There's going to be tons of stuff that I missed in here. There's going to be tons of stuff I might add to it later to cover it. I know I'm going to do a separate accessories video, but I hope you enjoy it. I hope it helps you make a decision, and if I helped you at all, then it was worth it. All right, take care. I'm going to move on to the next one. Okay, so I left one really big little, I guess this is a PS at the end of the letter, but one big detail, and this is a huge point of contention. Everybody wants to talk about it, but if you can see straight back here, that is it catches the chain or chain roller or whatever. I can't remember the name of that part. Just in case you're having a tough time seeing it though. Straight ahead, that thing right there. I believe it comes out with an Allen head, and you can go down to any parts store, just match the thread count if you want to, and just pull that out. A lot of people say that gets jammed up with the chain, cracks the frame. What I'm gonna do, it was already on Pro Cycle for $124. I just added it to my LED taillight order, and a lot of people say, oh, you can go down to a hardware store. You can, but I just wanted to save myself 30 minutes of hassle. Time is money, so I'll pay 75 cents to, you know, extra for a bolt, but it's just a tiny little Allen head bolt that just screws into there in the chain. You never have to worry about that issue, whether or not it even is an issue. I've heard some people say it is, and other people say that it's supposed to be that way. But anyway, thanks again, and take care till the next vid. See you.